Hey everybody, it's Anna. Welcome back to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you a book haul from Emerald City Comic Con, which I attended this past weekend. That takes place in the downtown Seattle area, and like most cons, it's kind of a chance for different artists and fans and pop culture-y folks to get together and geek out about comics. And because it is primarily a comics and somewhat literary related convention, I did pick up several books. So I'd like to go ahead and share some of those with you. Now, the first two books that I got from this event were actually at an offsite event in my neighborhood comic store, but two author/artists that I enjoy their work came to my local comic book store, and I got to have a couple books signed by them. The first was G. Willow Wilson, who signed this copy for me of Ms. Marvel Volume 1, No Normal. You can see in there, she signed it to me, which was very sweet. This is my favorite superhero comic of all time. It's the one that I keep track of the most. I don't tend to read a lot of superhero comics regularly. I just don't find them as interesting or entertaining, I suppose. But Miss Marvel is great. Currently, Miss Marvel, that role is held by Kamala Khan, who is a Pakistani Muslim American teenager who is kind of having to deal with the pressures of being a superhero and of newly discovering her what they're called inhuman powers, which are these like mutations that allow her to grow and shrink at a rapid rate. So she's able to kind of grow, shrink, stretch. She has a giant fist that she can embiggen in order to punch the bad guys. So it's kind of her coming to terms with her own teenage self, her superhero identity, but as well her, identity as she's on the transitional period from childhood to adulthood. So I was very pleased that I got to meet the creator of those comics and have this one signed. And I also met, while we were at this signing event, Babs Tarr, who is the artist and creator for this series called Motor Crush. Currently there's just the first volume out, and she was telling me a little bit about it. I haven't read this, but from what I gathered from talking with the artist, she said that it started out as kind of like a racing comic, like a motorcycle racing kind of thing, and then it turned into something else that became very science fiction-y and time travel-y. And because those are all things that I really enjoy, I decided to go ahead and pick this up. And I will find, yep, there it is, Babs Tarr's signature. So I'm very much looking forward to read this. Babs Tarr is also the illustrator for the current iteration of the Batgirl comics. So if you like her work, be sure to check that out. Okay. The next book that I have here is a novel. As a matter of fact, I ended up picking up this novel quite by chance. I was going to a panel with Jonathan Colton and Ann Wheaton, Patrick Rothfuss, and there was another woman who was a songwriter, but I can't remember her name. And I just so happened to be sitting next to a man who was dressed in kind of a, oh, hi Lily, it's my dog. I'll show you, you can see her. Lils, say hello. Hello. Yeah, she's not really sure what's going on right now. Gone off to her blankets. Now that that's out of the way, I just so happened to be sitting next to a gentleman who was kind of dressed in like a Victorian steampunk-esque costume, and I asked him if he was dressed as a specific character or an original creation, and that was when he told me that he was actually a sci-fi author. His name was David Levine, and he's written this novel, Arabella of Mars. I believe the second book is being released very soon that has something to do with Arabella and Venus, as in the planet, but basically this is a late 17th, early 18th century reimagining of kind of like a Regency era novel, but it takes place in the human colony on Mars, and like the British, instead of just colonizing the countries of the world, have colonized space because that's kind of what 18th century British folks do. They colonize things. And this follows the story of Arabella, who is a young girl who's kind of rebelling against the strictures of the 18th century. I'm kind of a sucker for this kind of thing. And the man was just so delightful. We had such a great conversation. We were talking about writing and poetry and just being able to react to the panel with somebody that clearly cared as much about language and literature was really fantastic. And he also signed it to me. He said, "To Anna, nice to meet you," which I thought was very kind of him. very much looking forward to that. Okay, this next volume was originally a Kickstarter, and it was actually for sale now at the convention and at other comic book stores, and that is Tabula Adam, a queer tarot comic anthology. Things that I really like: comics, queer people, and tarot cards, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this. So this is a collection of 22 comics that goes through the major arcana of the tarot. Each comic in this collection is based upon one of the major, enough to be able to meet some of the authors and illustrators of this and have them sign the book for me. Another book that I was able to get signed is actually a comic book series that I came to by way of its tabletop RPG version, and that is the Mouthguard comic book series. Mouthguard would be a great series for readers of all ages, really, who are fans of Redwall, Game of Thrones, like similar high fantasy, but it's all told from the perspective of animals, and the Mouthguard are this like elite set of warrior mice that have been designated not only to guard and protect the mice folk from outside dangers and things like that, but they also just sort of help mice just deal with the difficulties that are inherent in being a very small creature living in a very big world. And I got to meet David Peterson, who is the author, artist, creator of the Mouthguard series. I bought his new book, which is the Mouthguard Alphabet book, and talked to him some about the RPG. And he drew this adorable little mouse sketch just right in front of me while we were chatting. It was absolutely incredible. He was just like, "Oh yeah, you like the book? What do you think of it?" And he's just sitting there drawing this mouse like nobody's business. Very, very impressed. Okay, this next one I believe will be familiar to those of you that follow Cece's channel at Problems of a Book Nerd, and that is Year 1 of Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. I got to meet her, which was very, very exciting. I heard about the comic because of Cece's channel. It started out as a webcomic about boys at an all-boys school playing hockey and falling in love, and there's pie, and I've heard it's really sweet and cute. She made a little sketch there for me of the main character, Eric R. Bittle. I actually haven't read too much of this. I read a little bit of the webcomic, enough to know that I was definitely interested in finishing it, so very excited to have gotten that. And then these last few are not ones that are signed, they're just books that I picked up at various like publishing stands in the vendor's booth. So one of those is the Overwatch Anthology of comics. These are all of the comics that have come out related to the team-based shooter that Blizzard makes and that I play far too much of. Very excited to have these all collected in one space for the first time. This book, Brazen Rebel Ladies Who Rocked the World by Penelope Bagiu, is actually not out yet, but it is a graphic novel history of women and feminism and women who changed the world. And just give you an idea of the art style, it's just beautiful. It's so different from the other kind of historical comics that I've read. And I believe this comes out later this year, either late summer, early fall. And then these last three are picked up from Boombox. One is The Amory Wars, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4 by Claudio Sanchez and Chandra Eckert. This is the like husband and wife duo behind my favorite band of all time, Coheed and Cambria, who got together and decided to write comic books based off of the band's albums. So this is like a very niche thing, but I don't care because I'm just really excited about it. We have The Backstages Volume 1, which is about a group of boys at an all-boys school that are theater techs for their school's theater program, and they have like a magical supernatural backstage. Pretty much this sounded like Lumberjanes, except with boys instead of girls, at a school instead of a summer camp, and a supernatural theater instead of supernatural woods, so how could I not pick that up? And then last but not least is Misfit City, which I've heard billed as kind of like a Goonies, Stranger Things-esque, Paper Girls-esque kind of tale of 80s female friendships. Very much looking forward to letting you know how this goes. Okay, the next few things I picked up are actually little freebies of books that have not yet been published, but I will tell you a little bit about them. I'm going to read the samples. I'm going to read the already printed proofs, I suppose, like review copies of the books that aren't out yet, and just let you know a little bit about this. So this one was a sampler that I picked up from Quirk. Half of it is The Con Artist, which is going to be a novel by Fred Van Lente about a murder mystery that takes place at a Comic-Con, much like the one I attended. And then on the other side is the novel excerpt 10 Dead Comedians, which is going to be released in paperback later this year. The hardcover is already out, and that is also by Fred Van Lente. And the way that the publicist billed this to me was that it's very similar to Agatha Christie's novel And Then There Were None, but with comedians instead of English manor house folks. Okay, here is the second sampler from fall 2018. This is another like middle grade and YA comic book publisher. As you can see, there's a couple images from the upcoming release of Check Please in here, but this also includes, oh boy, quite a few, both fiction and nonfiction comics, it seems, that I am interested in seeing what's going to be coming up in the fall. It's not very often that I get like a sampler like this. Usually I end up with like arcs or galleys of things. So this will be like a good way to whet my appetite for some comics coming in fall. And then this last one, Be Prepared by Vera Brogsol, was actually given to me by the author. I got to meet her, and she gave me a free copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. This is sort of a true life memoir of her time at a Russian Orthodox church summer camp that she went to when she was a young girl, and she hated it. So it is her story of her time at that summer camp and what went down. And there's actually like reproduction of the letter that she wrote to her mom saying how much she hated camp in the back. I'll show you. That's what it looks like. And it says, the beginning of it says, "Dear Mom, hi, camp is okay, but I really want to go home. For the first time, I hate camp. All the people here are mean to me. Everyone has candy, and they eat it in front of me. There is no running water in the whole camp, I swear. I cry almost every night." I am very much looking forward to reading this as well. I know I say that about all of these books, but I really am just genuinely excited to read them. And then I also was able to pick up a couple individual pieces of art, a couple like single issue comics, but if I showed you every little piece of ephemera that I came home from the convention with, we'd just be going through people's business cards forever. I am planning on doing a video sometime in the future about favorite like independent artists that I'd like to share work with. So comment down below if you found anything that I hauled in this video interesting, or if you have any favorite comic books or comic book series recommendations to make. And if you don't read comic books very much, that's okay. I wasn't really much of a comics reader until really I got to adulthood, as a matter of fact. I think I really started reading comics in college, and it's kind of just taken off from there. So be not afraid if you don't normally read comics. Don't worry about it. We can have a great conversation about where to start down below in the comments. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video if you'd like to see more like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!